Hello, it's Al Martens again, without Danny Dunbar, because I'm doing an awesome interview again. Today, my special guest is Asia. I'm going to let her
Hello.
do the introductions. Hi, yeah, say hi, say hi. So I know you well, but for people who don't know you, who is Asia? And what's your full name, all that, and where you live, your bank account, just the last four digits of your
Yeah,
bank
right,
account.
right.
Not really.
Yeah, my name is Asia Filipiak. And I am originally from Guam. I was born and raised there. If you don't know where that is, it's very understandable because most people don't. But
I
it's a
had to look it
tiny,
up. I had to look it up.
yeah, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny island in the middle of in like the South Pacific by Southeast Asia. And yeah, I was born and raised there, and I moved to the States when I was a sophomore in college. Did my first year on Guam, and then transferred out to a college in Wisconsin. Um, and so that was definitely a transition because that was like up by the UP. So I feel I don't know, it could be similar climate to what you have, Al. I don't know if
Oh yeah, it's
maybe it's not
probably a
it. Maybe
little
it's wild.
warmer, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
no. Yeah, I have a lot of Filipino friends, and they still, like, even after a bunch of years living in Canada, in the north, they're like,
It's so
some days
cold.
they really miss the island life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So went to a school called Northland International University, and actually, I guess to back it up, I met my husband, my now husband, I guess, on Guam. We both went to the same high school, and he ended up going to that college because he had a scholarship there. And I knew a lot about the college already before I met
Mm-hmm.
him, so it kind of worked out that we would end up at the same college. But yeah, we both graduated from there. He's a year older than me, so he worked at Northland for a year, and then the school closed down, and I was part of the last graduating class.
Wow.
Yeah, so bizarre. And that itself is a long story, but essentially, just the way that everything worked out. Luke had connections with people um, and organizations in Louisville, Kentucky, and so we both moved there, or he moved there first, and then once we got married, I moved down there a year after him, essentially,
Do you say
and
it?
we
Do you say it Louisville or Louisville?
it is definitely Louisville. If
Louisville.
you live here, yeah, and they basically say like the less um pronounced you can, like, the least amount that you can like emphasize the I in that, the more
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
um
yeah.
correct it is.
Yeah.
So
I don't know why I know
yeah.
that, but I know it.
Yeah, it's
So
really
what
funny.
was Luke doing in that school anyway? Why was he in Guam?
So he was actually born and raised in Wisconsin. Actually, his parents used to work at the college that we ended up going to, and that's how he got that scholarship.
Cool.
And so they knew, um, and it's a Christian college, and they sent out a lot of people into ministry, and so they just had a lot of connections, including a pastor out on Guam. And there's a super typhoon that tore through Guam back in 2005. No, I can't remember what the date. I think it was 2005.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really bad, and the ministry that this pastor ran was called Harvest. They had like had it was just so wrecked after that, and they basically got a short-term mission trip crew together, and Luke's parents were on that team, and because of like their connections, they just needed people out there fast, and so
Yeah.
they went out to Guam and they fell in love with it. They prayed about it, and then yeah, then they moved their entire family.
Then they fell
Luke
in
and
love
his
with
brother.
Asia.
Yeah, so it was crazy because I didn't know Luke right when he moved to Guam. It was only after I had volunteered to work at like their summer program because I could get free admission to camp. And so that was like my way to get free camp. And he has been a nerd since ever since. And he was like working in a weird, I don't know if he was like technically working for them or if he was volunteering as well, but he was like working for the school, updating all the softwares and all the computers
Oh, yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
campus. And so one of the classrooms that I was helping out in, I was helping out with like their art program. He was there for a week as he was like work, or I don't know, a few days while he was working on that computer. And so my friends that were volunteering with me, they went to the same like uh, youth group as him, and so they introduced me to him. And
That's
then I
awesome.
thought that they were hanging out with me, or that he was hanging out with us because he was friends with my friends. I didn't know it was because he had liked me already at that point. So that was a
Oh,
long time
yeah.
ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love
so
those kind of stories.
they're so funny.
Yeah.
Those like awkward middle school or like lower classmen school stories.
So how different
Um,
culturally was Guam too? Like obviously there's weather was the difference, but like
yes.
was it a big shock coming to, or because it's an
Yeah.
American colony, so it's not quite like
Yeah. I like that you said that. It's essentially a, a colony.
it's a,
I mean, it's a
not a,
territory.
it's
It's a
sort of a territory,
territory,
but it was
but it's
colonized, obviously.
essentially, yes, it was.
Yeah,
But it's
like
essentially like a
much
modern
like the
day
Philippines.
colony.
Like the Philippines, all the people I know either have French names or Spanish
Right.
names because they've been
Yeah.
taken over by who knows how many different countries through
Right.
the
Yeah.
centuries. So they're just peace loving
Yeah.
farming people that have been taken over a bunch of times.
I mean, it's really similar to Guam. Guam's was under Spanish reign since the conquistador era, and it didn't switch to American hands until the Spanish American War, and then it didn't become a territory until after World War II. Um, so it's all recent. It's pretty crazy, but um culturally it's very different. um it was interesting because I was going to a college. I feel like colleges have their own like subcultures,
Yeah.
especially at least my experience, because we were in the middle of nowhere, so you were a lot more connected and more close knit with your
Hmm.
campus because like you were all you had.
Yeah, I could totally
So
relate. That's like
yeah.
where I met Gloria was in
Mhm.
a little Bible school town in called Cairnport, Saskatchewan, which is
Okay.
just its own little town that's just the Bible
Hmm.
school. It was some
Yeah.
completely isolated from anyone
Right,
else. Yeah.
right. So like in that sense, it was sort of similar to Guam, like va- vaguely similar, I guess, in the way that you would just build friendships and you kind of treated people like your family. And in particular, we just had a really loving like faculty and staff at our school, and Luke and I spent a lot of our like weeknights just hanging out at families' homes and
Hmm.
like hanging out with their kids and like helping them with dinner. And so it like felt very family and less, it was not a normal college experience, that's for sure, at least my experience. So that was kind of nice. I think that like helped remedy it for me. I know that there were a lot of people that struggled with from Guam and like other countries that were at Northland that struggled with homesickness. And not to say that I didn't, but I feel like the way that I combated that was by just like kind of digging deep in where I could build relationships with people. And I
Hmm.
think that was like very formidable for me. But yeah, I would say the biggest difference culturally is just like the way um you I mean, I don't know. I guess there's a lot of ways I can like dig into this, but essentially the way that you would communicate with people, like I feel like on Guam, people are it's a very warm culture, not just like climate wise, but like the way in which you communicate with each other. Like you're not as um reserved typically with
You're
people.
trying to
Like it's
say it nicely, but I know exactly what you mean, I think.
I know,
Like, so
I
all
know.
my Filipino friends,
Mhm.
even if they're not in the same family, they pretty much are family.
Mhm.
And they all
Totally.
get together on holidays and stuff and have giant feasts in their houses. Like,
Yes.
everyone brings, like, their potlucks are crazy how
Yeah.
much food they bring. and they do
Right.
stuff together all the time. Like that's
It's
just the way they are, and they
it
with
really is.
yeah, and I can see that, and it's not like in Canada we're not like that.
Mm.
We're kind of
Yeah, it's just
closed
so
off.
interesting. Yeah. Uh when we moved to Louisville, I feel like that was more of when I feel like I had a delayed culture shock, to be honest, because I kind of just knew that like Northland and that like setting was so unique that I feel like I had a different category for it. But then when I was like, you know, married and have a normal job, not on a campus, like um, I think I just had an expectation that I was just like like everything should feel normal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know why am I sorry.
That's all right.
Um, I guess I can just switch to my webcam. Sorry about that.
Oh, we're okay.
It's not
Ooh,
as nice, but it's
it's
fine.
more moody.
Very moody. So, um, I so I thought that I would have more of a normal, like I thought the adjustment would be easy because I'd been in the States for I think like 4 years at that point. I'm like, this is nothing now. Like, I mean, more of the transition would just be like being married and being in a new location, but I didn't really think of the cultural impact I would like feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think really that the differences in how you relate with others that are your friends that are not necessarily technically your family was really hard for me. And for Luke, we would, as we would like connect with people, we would say things like, you guys are welcome whenever. Like we always have food. We like if you want to come over and crash at our place and hang out with us, totally feel free to do that. And I think it took like a couple years for people to feel comfortable to do that, and like not
Mm-hmm.
not even just comfortable, like believing that we meant what we said and it wasn't just like a nice thing to say because we were moving further south, which is more like that Southern Belle culture.
Yeah.
um so that was like the hardest transition for me, I think.
Yeah, I can see that because I'm the same. Like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I grew up in a family that we had someone over every Sunday after church. So that was just part
Yeah.
of my life. We just had
Right.
people over. My dad was a pastor's kid, so they did that on the regular. And
Mm-hmm.
then I like doing that, and I do that. I tell people that, and when there's people I know that are in a bit of a crisis or whatever, going through stuff, I'm like, just call me and come over for supper anytime you want or whatever. You don't even have to announce, just show up, and because I can always make more food, right?
Right.
We're the same that way, and they don't ever seem to believe it until you tell them like 20 times, and then they come and they're like,
Right. You're
thank
like,
you so much.
oh.
I'm like, yeah, no, that's it's actually no big deal. Like this is how I show my love. But yeah, it's funny how different that can be.
Right.
So what other kind of nerdy pursuits do you have? Like what things? And I know all these answers, but
Yeah.
maybe there's some I
Well,
don't know. I don't know
maybe,
what's your
who knows?
passion and drives you right now with even just
So
for fun or whatever that
the
is.
I really love okay, there's a few things, I guess. I really love analyzing stories. I don't make enough time to do it, but I enjoy writing for Love by Nerds
Mm-hmm.
blogs and like analyzing stories there through mostly just like movies. I think are the only things, or movies and TV shows are the only things I've written about. But I love to break down plots and break down characters and find symbolism and this like deep dive. I have a very obsessive personality. And so when I find something I like, whether it's like a show or some concept or I don't know, anything, I will just like research the heck out of it to like, I don't know, to break it down as much as I can. I think it's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I love to do that with all kinds of stories. One of my favorite books is The Stories We Tell by Mike Cosper. And it is like when I read it for the first time, I was like, I feel so seen. Like this is exactly how I feel. Essentially about how like um, the, the image of God is so ingrained in us, no matter like where we're at, and so stories can't help but like exude that. And it's just really cool when you look at any, like, whether they're novels or, a
Yeah.
super campy, nerdy show or whatever it may be, like you can find echoes of that everywhere. So I love to like dig into those kind of things. Um,
That's
I
cool.
really,
I feel
yeah,
those things too when I watch, like, the movies and shows and books I connect to are ones with relationships that matter or things like that. I
mm-hmm,
just
yeah,
I love digging into that. And as a writer, that's what
right,
a casual writer, I should say, I seek those things. I look for
mm-hmm,
ways of making that connection, and you just hope that if someone reading this will say, "Oh yeah, okay, I get what he's doing here, and this I'm
yeah.
feeling this." Yeah, that's cool.
When it comes to more conventional nerdy stuff, I mean, I love anime in general, but the arena that I feel like I have dedicated so much time into getting to know is anything Studio Ghibli
Mm-hmm.
related. I think I've talked about it like on my
Yeah,
streams,
yeah, no, and
but
my son is super into it too. We've watched a
oh,
bunch of
it's so
those.
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I just love Hayao Miyazaki. He just does a great job of like send having the foundation of all his movies being like, I'm trying to inspire the next generation, and I really want to tell good stories that will inspire them, and I think that's really cool.
everyone's so
So
original and different, and just goes to
mhm.
places you'd never expect when you first watch it. And
Oh yeah,
they're so special. They really are.
and he's one of the only people that, or well-known people that I know successfully doesn't know the endings of his stories when he starts them. He
Yeah.
just like knows the world and knows like the initial like story,
So it
like plot points.
unveils as he writes the story.
Yeah, yeah. As he does the art and everything, he
That's cool.
figures out his ending. It's super cool.
I can
It's
get
so
that. I
impressive.
do that with a lot of my writing.
So
It's just
cool.
I have an idea, and then I
Hmm.
write, and then something comes up as I'm going, and
You're
I'm
like,
like,
well, we're
whoa,
gonna go
okay,
this way.
yeah, I guess I didn't see
Yeah.
that coming, which is
Yeah, it's
weird
so
to say,
cool.
but yeah,
Right. Yeah, so I like that. And then the other thing that I feel like I don't always have people to talk to about it, and I always feel bad like I'm can overwhelm people with this information, is like analyzing personality and like generations
mm-hmm.
and cultures, just like anything that makes people what they are. Like I love to analyze that like all the time. And if I had unlimited time and resources, I probably would go back to school and get a master's in psychology, and then get like a doctorate in anthropology, and just like
That'd be
be
cool.
able to write a dissertation on like how is personality affected by culture, specifically in the East, because I feel like there's not enough literature on that. There's a lot
Wow,
of literature about like the Western like framework of like how people are wired, and like okay, like people who are type A or type B, or if you're like into the Enneagram or into Myers Briggs. Like I feel like anytime they communicate those like the applications of those personalities, it's always through the lens of someone who is Western minded, and it's not always through the lens of someone who is um like a Pacific Islander or Asian or something like that. So I think that'd be really interesting.
that would be. I'm similar in the sense of I think if I went for schooling, it would be sociology.
Mm,
I just
that'd be
like,
cool.
yeah, how culture and things around us affect who we are as a people, and yeah, well, that's neat. I could talk forever about that stuff, but
It's so
we
fun.
can't do this without talking about food a bit, because
Yes,
we're
that's
kind of
true.
like twins or soul siblings when
Soul
it comes
siblings. Yeah.
to food, because we both cook the same way. So, how long have you been cooking your whole life since you were
Basically,
little?
someone was, I feel like someone asked me this recently, and I think the thing that got me into cooking more often was when I started watching my brothers at home by myself, like in the summers or whatever, when we were on break. And I just have two younger brothers, and they just really love to eat, and so they'd wake up at like 10 and be like, "Where's breakfast?" And then like by the time I'm done making breakfast, it's like 11. And then like an hour later, they're like, when's lunch? I'm like, what? You just ate. And so I was just constantly
Boys.
making meals. And then it got to the point when I was a little bit older, I was like in charge of making their lunches. And Rio would say things like, no one makes a sandwich like you. And that was like the only way he'd get out of like also being involved in making food, which is ironic because now he really loves to cook, but he did not enjoy it growing up. Um, but yeah, so that's what I think got me into like cooking more often. But my parents both really enjoy cooking. They cook different things, but they both are really into it. And my dad would like have a sit down. I'm like really bad at chopping still, but he would like try to teach me how to chop properly and how to do different things. And
Whatever.
yeah, so,
That's
so
funny. Oh,
yeah, I feel like I learned from all of them.
that's neat. Yeah, so it's even started as necessity, that seems. Like me,
Mm-hmm.
my mom taught piano, and if I wanted to eat supper at 6 or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
she just said that one day. If you want to have supper, you're gonna have to make it.
There you
So
go.
she showed me how to make it, and I started making suppers. And I don't
That's
know how
awesome.
old I was, but it was a teenager. But I can't remember when I started really liking it. Except my first job when I left home was as a cook,
Oh,
and
that's
then
cool.
from then on, I started liking.
Like
But
just
it
getting into
hasn't
it.
been till just maybe the last 20 years that I've really started
Mm,
enjoying cooking and exploring it a bit and stuff like that.
yeah.
And we
Maybe
experiment.
one day Luke
You're
will
the
get
same
there.
as me. We like to know kind of where we're going, but not be so rigid. And I don't look at
Yeah.
I don't look at the recipes unless I'm
Recipes, I
baking.
know.
I kind
Yeah,
of know
that and
what
that's why I
stuff
don't bake
does,
that
and I
much.
try. Yeah, I know. Yeah, same thing. See, we're like twins.
We are.
All right, so I want to hear your Jesus story. So, however you want to tell it.
Yeah.
Let's. What does Jesus mean to you, and when did you get to know him, and all that stuff?
Hmm. So I was born into a unbelieving family at first. My parents are like um they were the first ones in their family to become Christians. There's a little bit of a like a qualifier there. My dad's mom became a Christian, but not until like my dad was like a few years before my dad became a Christian. So they definitely didn't grow up in that like in a church environment in Christian homes or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. It wasn't until I was I believe like 6 or 7 when they became believers. And so um me and my middle brother Rio were already both born before they became believers. And they, um, I, my parent, like I only say this because my parents have also said this. Like they are really grateful to the Lord's grace of like putting people in my life and in my brother's lives to just like help us grow because during the season of them raising us, like they just were not like at a point spiritually to like really be the people um taking the reins on like spiritual development for us and just like really challenging us in that way. And that's like not to knock them at all. And I only say that because like they've already
No,
like
well,
they
if you
say that
didn't
too.
know,
Yeah.
like if you don't know all
Yeah.
the church culture stuff that
Right.
I grew up
Right.
with, how do you know what to do?
Exactly. So I would say a lot of my childhood like um yeah, like guidance and stuff were from the faculty at the school that we went to. We went to a Christian school. My parents actually put us into that school because they had a really good education program. Initially, like that they didn't enroll us because it was a Christian school at first, and then they became Christians, and it was a different story. But um,
Hmm.
I became a believer when I was like in the first like the faith of a child, like I believe that I needed Jesus um to save me from like the penalty of sin and like at that like very
The base level, yeah.
base level, yeah,
Yeah.
when I
I
was
was like
young.
6 or 7, I think, when I
Yeah,
did that.
right. but it wasn't until I was in middle school. So the school we went to, it like if you went to that school, you were agreeing to a Christian education. You didn't have to be a Christian to go there. You just were agreeing to like they are going to teach, like you're going to have a Bible class, you're going to go to chapel, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't until I was in middle school where I was like feeling like the pull from the Lord to like be faithful in how I live. And it was very much so like not the case for my friends. And I remember just being really lonely in middle school. I did not have very many friends. I would cry to my mom and be
Oh,
like, I don't have anyone. Like everyone thinks I'm weird for like we go to this Christian school and everyone says they're a believer, but I'm like, I feel like I'm the only one that like wants to take that seriously and not just say it. And I'm like, I don't know. I felt like an old soul in a child's body when
huh.
I was growing up. And I was like so fed up with people who would like say they love the Lord, but like they didn't show in their actions. And I would be like, why did you just say you're not a Christian if like that's the case? Like it would just the duplicity, like from a young age, like really bothered me. Um and I think the Lord was like really kind in that though. Like it just taught me a lot of like in the end, like um rely or just trusting in him and like growing in love for him and it not being about like who else can I surround myself with at like the base level. Like, the Lord is all
Yeah.
you need in the end. Um so I think that was really good for me. I can see like how the Lord used that. And then it wasn't until I was a senior in high school that one of my very best person who became my very best friend, Sarah Brubaker, she moved to Guam. She was a professor at a college on Guam, and she started coming to the church that I went to and, got involved with our youth group. And we did these mentorship programs called cell groups. And it was like one youth group leader with one upperclassman and one lowerclassman. And that was like just like very small, essentially like discipleship, like intentional discipleship groups. And Sarah was just like so awesome and so real. She was like the first person that I ever really encountered that like just loved the Lord so much, but was so down to earth and like understood that at a practical level. And I learned so much about like the Lord and trusting us with the people around us and like that we are called to love them and like be like practice living in the kingdom that is like
Mm-hmm.
already and not yet. And I didn't understand that to that like I like spiritually speaking, like I didn't get that until like the Lord allowed her in my life. And so I feel like she was like one of the most influential people um growing up. And then uh after I graduated, because like I was older, she was like coming out of grad school, so she was like an older sister to me, like age gap wise. And so like she and I and our the underclassmen in our cell group, Jesse, like we like to this day are like best friends and still
Oh,
talk.
that's neat.
And yeah, I just feel like the Lord like has like knit our souls together and we're like forever friends. And I it's just special because like I said earlier, with just struggling with building relationships in the States, it's like really made me feel grateful for like some of the friendships that he's allowed to like really withstand and just grow and like continue to like be life bringing after all these years. So
That's
that's
neat.
been really cool. Yeah. So I would say like that was like a really big moment for me. And um like I said, like I've known Luke for a long time and it's been really cool to see the Lord work in us like individually and together. And because we've known each other for so long, I feel like I don't say this as like I don't know, a pompous thing, but I think it is like really kind of the Lord to allow us at a young age to experience like seeing a lot of like change in the two of us and like
Mm-hmm.
um I don't know. I feel like encountering the concept of like choosing to love, like not just this specific personality and how this person is right now, but like loving their soul. And because, like, with us becoming friends when we were uh like 13 or something, uh through high school and through college into
I've
young
seen
adult.
the
Like
old
you just
pictures.
change.
They're so
Yeah.
cute.
It's so crazy. We just like changed so much. Not and like, that's just life. Like you grow and change, and
Yeah.
like you should want to grow and change. And so it's just cool to like the Lord has used our, our first friendship and then dating and then marriage to like really show us a lot about like the Lord's faithfulness to us in like what, like however we grow and change. And I just feel like the Lord's been really kind in where we are at right now. Like not just like the job he provided and the church that he provided and whatever, but like just like overall, I feel like um really grateful to the Lord to like guide us to a place where we truly are serving and loving people better together than we would like apart.
Yes, I get that.
So
Like I see it
yeah.
in you too, and like I'll tell you now, just as a matter of encouragement, that it's like you've had a head start. Like
Mm,
because I'm 50 years old, and it's only been recently that I've been the guy who's trying to be encouraging and loving and open with people. Like I spent a
mm-hmm,
lot of my years not being that way, and
mm-hmm,
to see you two really being that kind of family building, relationship building couple, it's really inspirational. It's amazing. And like you say, it's by the grace of God,
yeah,
but I don't know, there's still something along the way that you made a choice to be that way,
yeah.
and you saw that,
Right.
and for whether it
Mm-hmm,
was your friend in college that showed you how to love like Jesus, and then
mm-hmm,
you just latched onto that, which is I think it's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I definitely thank you for that encouragement. I'm like very grateful, and I don't know. It just I feel like every day, if I mean, I'm grateful for every facet of like who the Lord is, but if there's one that I constantly am like in awe of, is just how faithful the Lord is to me.
Mm-hmm.
And like how I can like tend to stray or like just I don't know. So I'm a very I feel like you and I are similar in a lot of ways. I don't know if you would also identify with this, but I am very chill and relaxed,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I can have the tendency to like almost just um like in a stressful situation just be like, all right, like it'll pass, and like almost like not allow myself to feel it all the way. And
Mm-hmm.
like that's my natural like inclination. And so when I think about the Lord's faithfulness, it is about like I feel like I can let myself just be passive for a while and be like, like kind of twist the Lord's um sovereignty and be like, well, the Lord will let, it's very
Yeah, yeah,
hippie,
yeah,
like
yeah.
the
Take
Lord will
advantage
let
of it.
be what will be. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
God promised to take care of me, so I guess I'm
yeah,
good.
which is like not, it is true, but like also we're called to like to cling to him in that and like allow ourselves to feel things like fully. And so I feel like the Lord's been like growing me a lot
And our
in the last
spouses
year.
are the opposite, so it makes it
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
challenging
For sure.
because they're ready to get stressed, and you're like, "What are you stressed about?
Right.
It's all gonna work out. Trust me. It's
Yeah,
fine. It's all good."
for
But I
sure.
mean, after 30 some years of marriage, we kind of meld together a little bit, and so it gets better. Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. Um, so what are you doing now to be like Jesus, or to love like Jesus, or to um follow Jesus' ways? I mean,
Hmm.
I know you're not the kind of person that thinks going to church is making you more like Jesus. So how do you
Right.
be Jesus with people?
Well, I mean, so we kind of mentioned, I guess I never really actually said this on this podcast yet. So I am a food and drink streamer
Mm-hmm.
on Twitch, and I do uh just like food content and creative content on social media and whatever. And
Art
while
content,
yeah, all those fun
pocky
things, pocky
content.
content, my puppy. But like I've just always I try in my like faithfulness to the Lord to always be intentional in what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so even things like food and being creative and sharing things, like my motivation to do any of that ultimately is to build relationships. And I think that things like nerdy fun things to talk about or food or art or whatever or puppies are like great ways to like initiate friendships or just like help people feel comfortable. I believe that I have the gift of hospitality, like
Oh,
spiritual gift of
totally.
hospitality. Thanks.
Yeah.
And for me, what that really breaks down or like boils down to is like having being gifted in making people feel at home with you. Like it doesn't have to be a house or like a nice place or you go, it doesn't have to be a whole thing of entertaining or whatever. Like ultimately it's just like the presence that you bring to
They can relax around you and be
person. Yes,
themselves.
exactly.
Yeah, I
Right.
love
And
that.
so I try to be a good steward of that and like let that be a catalyst to like allow me to build relationships with others, but also like allow like bring people together to allow people to have relationships with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to do that in the ways that obviously in ways I'm not gifted, I try to grow in those areas, but in ways that I am gifted and am interested in, like streaming food stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's a really cool and unique way to do that. And so I just try to be driven that way. And I'm really grateful. I guess I didn't say this in my like bio, but we just recently, within the last like couple of years, moved across the river from Louisville to New Albany, um, Indiana. So it's like right um, above the Ohio River.
You're
And
right on the line, right?
yeah, right on the
Between,
line.
yeah.
Yes, definitely. And we're really grateful to have found a church in our community that like they're so driven by we sat in a membership meeting recently and they were like we believe that people were all built for relationships, and so everything we do is like motivated by that and like in acknowledging that that's what the Lord has called us to do. And it was just like uh, we just both like felt this like sense of relief because we've been like yearning for that for so long. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just so encouraging and like hearing them like flesh that out, like how what that looks like in this church community. And um I just like felt so affirmed and like this is what we feel the Lord has called us to. So we feel like his hand is definitely in this as well, like just being a part of this church that's like literally in our neighborhood.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so that's like how I try to be like Jesus, at least one aspect of that. And I just talked recently on my last stream about like how I want to continue to grow in that and not just like keep just doing the same thing and like make it an autopilot, whatever. And
Yeah,
so I've
yeah.
been really thinking through like how to maximize on that and like continue to just become a better steward. And since we have been living in this neighborhood for like a year, a little over a year now, um I feel like I have access to more people in our neighborhood and in our community, and including like people that are without homes in our community. And since I'm always like making food, like I want to be able to let that be a catalyst of like physically serving people. So um figuring out a system of like, having to go containers that I can put like these meals in that we make on stream and then we have fun with and, connect with our digital community. And, that's how you and I became friends. And
Mm-hmm.
while I'm fostering those relationships, I don't want to like neglect the relationships that are
Right next
right,
door, yeah.
right. Yeah. Right next door, like
Yeah, yeah.
literally right next door. So I'm super excited about that. And like, I don't know. I think I just, the Lord has really been prodding me with that. So I'm excited.
Hey, yeah. Well, love with food. That's the way.
Yeah.
That's like a love language. It really should be. I know that was my mother-in-law's love language.
Aw.
But all right. So, is there any one last thing you want to say? Like, you want to leave with? Promote your stuff. I'm going to do that anyway. But
Aw. I don't know. I just am really grateful. Like I'm trying to remember when you and I first started. Like, I didn't realize for the longest time that your first Twitch name was, I think it was like Red Letter Christian or something like
yeah,
that.
like
And I saw you in
yeah.
I saw you first in LTN Con, I think, like chat through, like last year.
Would have been when Luke was first.
Oh yeah, when Luke was first streaming.
And it was YouTube even, wasn't it, the first time?
The
first time he was on, they were streaming YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And you were Roundhouse Kick at the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've just been really grateful for I guess like starting to reap the fruit. Like I'm sure just like the very surface of fruits that the Lord has been like sowing, and just like, yeah, the fact that we are really good friends now, and now I'm on your podcast, and this is like due to like this is a fruit of being faithful to like what the Lord has called us to. So yeah. I'm really grateful.
Well, and we're partners in that we encourage each other in our pursuits, and we're like-minded in the sense that we want to build relationships and community.
Right.
And that's why I latched on to you, and that's why you inspire me. And
inspire me too.
To me, that's what Christianity's all about. And that's why I wanted you on this podcast in the first place. Well, thanks for being here, Asia. You're awesome. I'm going to keep following you. I'm going to keep watching you. And
watch Pocky grow.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Pocky grow. And all those things. And I just know people are going to love you as much as I do. So if you're listening to this or watching the video on YouTube, there's a few things you got to do. You're going to have to go to learn about Twitch if you don't know what Twitch is, and search for Asia in the Kitchen. I'm going to put some links in places. If you want to be a part of this podcast community, then you got to get on our Discord. Because we don't have a Facebook, because Facebook is going to die now, probably because of that whole weird thing. And Discord's better anyway. The More About Jesus podcast has a Discord, and we got emails and all those things. So follow us, click links on the things that you're listening on, and become a part of this community. But more than that, make sure you check out who Asia is. So, well, that's all I got to say. This has been a real pleasure. We're going to do more of these kind of interviews with extraordinary Christians who aren't famous, really. But well, I think I had to catch you now.
That should be your tagline for.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for, a tagline. I'm hoping to get one that sticks eventually, because I'm kind of tired of the famous Christians that we seem to be so obsessed with. But I think everyday Christians are the best. But also, I think I had to get you on before you became famous. So.
Oh gosh, no.
No, you don't want that. All right, thanks for being here, Asia. And thanks for listening, everyone. Until next time, let's all do what we can to be more like Jesus.